The year is 1940. The Nazis have invaded and conquered most of Western Europe, and Mussolini has joined forces with Hitler, forging an alliance between Germany and Italy, which creates a major threat to the Royal Navy in the Mediterranean. Having staved off a German invasion at home, Winston Churchill has given the go-ahead for Operation Judgment, a first-of-a-kind, all-aerial operation which aims to put a stop to the Italian naval dominance, currently stationed in Taranto harbour.
Here in the Fleet Air Arm Museum in Yeovilton, they've got some fantastic objects and artefacts in their archive, and I'm looking at some now. In this lovely album here, they've got a chart with the plan for the attack. And as you can see, there's in the outer harbour here, the Mare Grandes, the big battleships, and you can see all the T's with the circles and the arrows. This is where they wanted to drop the torpedoes so they could take out the big battleships. And you can see that also the defences are marked on, AA anti-aircraft batteries all over the place as well. It was a very fiercely defended, as you'd expect from the main base of the Italian battle fleet. But what do we see after the battle? We see the Littorio has been terribly badly damaged here, and you can see here the Duccio has been driven ashore. They've beached her in order to stop her sinking. The Cavour, you can see, is a shipwreck. It's been sunk. But what I love as well are some of the logbooks, some of the diaries. Now this one here is incredibly precious. There's a diary here of a young man who went on the raid. He simply wrote, took off at 20:35 after planning, looking at photos, good moon, light winds. Got some Italian broadcasts on the radio, so apparently some of them listened to the opera as they went along. It's fairly cold at 7,000 feet, he says. I'm sure that's an understatement. And then they went down on the water as they got over Taranto, all hell appearing or something like that. Hundreds of pom-poms, which are the anti-aircraft guns on board the Italian ships. Everything going horizontal, bouncing along the water. Our average height, 15 feet. I mean, that is incredibly low. What with moon, flares and tracer, we didn't need to turn our searchlights on. They dropped their fish, their torpedo at the Cavour, 800 yards. They kept so low that we touched the sea once. Most of the fire went overhead. It's the first time I've ever smelt the anti-aircraft fire. Now, I've read a lot of accounts of Second World War raids and battles, and they do not come much more vivid and personal than that. One of the interesting things about studying the Second World War is just how much of the source material survives. We saw in that archive the photographs, the logbooks, and the personal accounts. But perhaps best of all is that the aircraft have survived too.
In the Battle of Taranto, the plan was for 24 aircraft to go. There was only 21 that actually made the mission, either in torpedo or bombing variants. And this is the only flying one in the world of a Mark I standard, and we have a Mark II back here which will be flying for next year. But there's only 3 flyers in the world at this moment in time, of which 2 are actually sitting at Yeovilton. The Battle of Taranto is obviously coming up to 75 years on the 11th of November this year, and this is basically one of the aircraft that would have been flying in the actual raid itself. So in this particular case, a centerline torpedo is sitting on the aircraft, or it would have been a fairly large 250-pound bomb. Underneath the wings, which are also made of fabric, would have been either loopers fares or small bombs as well. So basically the aircraft itself could be very, very flexible at the time of the raid. She's powered by a 750 brake horsepower engine in the front, a Pegasus 30, and it has the height record of that time going over the top of Everest and beyond with a separately supercharged one. So it's a very powerful, very reliable engine on it. The aircraft itself obviously is open cockpit, so you very much feel the elements when you're actually flying in it. And some of the chaps, obviously 4.5 hours plus in the actual aircraft, had to be lifted out when they got back home again. The key thing was it proved even an old-fashioned swordfish carrying torpedoes, the Fleet Air basically had the most devastating weapon, because this basically said we could take out warships from afar. So this is kind of a pivotal turning point for where the power sits.
I've been in open cockpit planes before, but never ones that are that powerful. It makes me think of those men 75 years ago up in those cockpits through the night, hours at a time, travelling across hostile territory, dealing with anti-aircraft fire and everything the enemy could throw at them. Thanks to the bravery, the resilience and the skill of the crews of these aircraft, Taranto was a famous victory. It was a victory that allowed Britain to maintain its naval dominance in the Mediterranean, support its position in North Africa and the Middle East, and it was a victory that would prove decisive in the outcome of the Second World War.